Welcome everyone. This is a little bit of a different video view for the instructions on this next assignment. Normally I am just down here working with my hands and you have this mystical voice speaking to you from out of the nowhere, and you're watching my hands do the work and that sort of a thing. This one's a little bit different. I wanted to kind of show you some of the things that I've discovered on assembling the pieces for this assignment. It's called the isolation box assignment, kind of in response to what we've been going through with being isolated away from those people who we care about a lot of times, and I care about you guys and would like to be there with you on showing you how to do some stuff with the various projects. But this is what I want you to do. This project is kind of conceptual, which means we're trying to develop a concept on our artwork. The concept is this, that we want to show our response to the COVID-19 virus and how we may feel about that. I've been wanting to do something like this for a while, but I haven't really had the idea narrowed down on what I wanted to do, because I want to give you guys some structure so you can have some success on this one. So the structure that I finally came up is this one. There's a couple of things you need to have in this assignment. The first thing you need to have is a box. This is my box. Happens to have some oranges, which I bought from some students in it at one time, that I'm going to use for this one. So my ideas and things are going to go inside this box. This is going to be the space that I'm going to be dealing with. The other thing I need, I filled my box with some goodies and stuff, is you need some sort of a figure. This is one of the figures that I found. It's mine. I do have the Power Ranger thing going on here, but no, this is one of my son's figures that I have. I want you to have a figure because anytime that you use a figure in artwork, it gives the person a relation to people, and so you can put yourself. You may not be a Power Ranger. Many of you I know are, but you can relate to it. It's a figure. It's a person. I've been there. I've been a person. I know what it is. So this was an example of one type of figure that I came across. And so another one I had was this one, another figure of the Playmobil figure on those. Some of you may relate to the Playmobil. It doesn't really matter what the figure is that you have on those, but I do want you to have some sort of figure. I suppose you could mold one or shape one out of aluminum foil, or fold one out of paper or something like that. You could use a photograph of yourself on that with those. There's a couple of ideas that I'll go through relating to that in just a minute or so. But you do need to have a figure, and you do need to have a box. Now, from there, it's up to you on what you're going to do with your box and inside your box. I have a whole host of things in here. Let me kind of dump some of my stuff out onto the table here, and so we can show you what it is we're going to be dealing with on all my various pieces of junk. All right, so the concept is this. We have our box, and so we have our little isolation place that we're going to be dealing with here, and the figure is going to go inside the box somewhere. They could be standing in here, that sort of a thing, maybe sitting on the side or whatever, however you want your figure to be inside your box. You'll notice that inside the box, that makes this figure kind of alone and by themselves, and it just has some of the things that we have with us in this particular type of box. Okay, so inside this box, I thought, here's the idea that I came up with. This is the concept. I have a figure, and really the only means of communication that we have or have had with a lot of people is electronic. And so I was thinking that my figure is kind of a prisoner inside this box, and he can't really communicate anything outside this box. And so I was going to have him seated at this at his phone, doing his work on his phone, on his screen with that. And I thought that would be kind of thing, because that's the way he has to communicate. And I thought, well, how does he communicate? Well, he communicates electronically. So I pulled up a bunch of these types of wires with connectors on them. And so I thought, well, I'll take this and I'll connect these wires to the bottom, and then off to the side, and then different parts of that. Maybe use some of this stuff found some fishing line that I could use to maybe string these wires off and have him reaching out to these different areas and these connectors going out to try and connect with people electronically. But I didn't want them to go all the way to the edge. I wanted him to stop short as we come across those figures. And so he's actually not truly connected with those. So I got some wires here, I got some more connectors over here, I got some more connector wires there, and some more over here. I got some phone wires and stuff that I can use for connecting and having those go out in different sorts of spaces inside my box. Now I also thought that he's kind of a prisoner in the box, and so with this one I was going to put some lines, some bars of some sort going across, and he's kind of an electronic prisoner on that as well. So I have even more lines on this one, and I was going to take and cut these, and I thought that maybe I could put these things across here, maybe cut out a section here where a window, and have some of those bars coming across as well with those. And so that's my idea of that I came up, the concept that I have, and some of the things I have. Other things I might need. Might need a knife for cutting there. Got some tape. Oh, and these little pieces here, these are going to be my little COVID-19 balls that I have in there. And so I have these little guys like this. And then I thought, you know, I can make this kind of look like a COVID-19 thing if I take and I stick a pin in that and through it maybe a little dab of glue and make some little COVID-19 balls that I could put around the outside, so that the balls are kind of keeping him prisoner inside of his box with those the things I have. There's some more straight pins that I just spilled all over the floor too. On that, I got some tape that might be helpful. I got myself some extra cardboard that probably be helpful on those, and I got myself some glue that might be helpful for putting some of those things together. Now you don't have to glue it, you don't have to tape it. It can just be sitting in there. It's kind of up to you on what you want to do as far as that, the figure and your concept. So that's a little bit about my box of goodies on what I'd like you to do. I would remember that we are in the context of our school where we're producing this artwork, so please don't make anything that's not socially acceptable in the school. Particularly, you don't want anything pertaining to violence or blood and gore. We don't want to, have this guy pour ketchup all over him and bleeding all over the thing. That's probably a little bit much for what we're looking for in this venue, in this area where we're looking to display stuff. Save that for when we're dealing outside. No drugs, no alcohol, those sorts of things as well. So keep things safe with those. That's not saying you can't address some negative feelings. Some of you may address negative feelings from this thing. You may have people who are sick or are affected by this disease. I know that we're all affected by it to some degree because we're not able to be in school, we're not able to communicate with our friends, and so there is a sense of isolation. Hopefully this project will help you maybe work through some of those ideas, maybe a way to express them. You haven't figured out how to say it exactly right, so you're going to say it with your artwork on what you're doing. I wanted to do this assignment also for my drawing and painting classes as well. I'm just going to have this as the general assignment for 1 week is what we're going to be doing when we're working on this. For those of you who are doing, and all those who are doing this assignment as well, be it drawing or painting, you could, on your surface of your box, do drawings or paintings. Anyone can do that. That was a thought that I had. You could go and you find pictures. Here's another concept that I was thinking on might be there. Maybe the concept you're dealing with is the isolation from teachers and them not being able to communicate effectively with you on that. So I thought of, what if I put on the back side of my box, I put my picture, on the back side of that box, if I was a student. And then from there, even, this is a pretty simple one, on the outside, I taped pictures or glued pictures of all of my teachers all over the outside of the box. On the inside of the box, I might put something like a blindfold across the picture of my eyes. And so I can't see what's going on inside of the box. And then outside on the pictures of all those teachers that I've downloaded and printed off and that sort of thing, I could put some sort of a covering over their mouth on that so they can't speak. So I can't see what they're doing. I can't understand what it is by my sight, which is my main thing on that. And they can't communicate with me except for what they can see or what they can type or through their hands and that sort of thing. That's another way of expressing maybe some of the frustrations you have. Now, any of these ideas that I've thought of, you're welcome to use them. You're welcome to come up with some of your own ideas. Let me go through maybe an idea on brainstorming some of the things that can go in there. So once we have our figures, once we're ready to go with our figures, and we have our box, oh, I will say on the box, it needs to be deep enough to where there's some sort of isolation in there, where you feel the sense of isolation. I was looking at like a little box that, you know, held a shirt, you know, that I got for Christmas or something. They're so skinny and so flat, they don't communicate that sense of isolation that somebody is inside. So maybe a box that is really shallow is not necessarily the box you're looking for on this particular assignment. So I got my first ideas. I found my figure, I found my box, and then I brainstorm my idea. What is it going to communicate? Then I start to write down what some of these things might symbolize. Like, remember when I was going through my box that I was explaining to you, I talked about how the only means of communication was a phone. I was thinking, well, what sort of communication? I thought about putting a keyboard. I thought about putting computer. I don't have an extra big computer that I can shove in that box anyway, but I found the phone, you know, and so those are some of the ideas I had. And so when I come up with the item that I'm going to use, I'm going to take a piece of paper, just a piece of notebook paper, and I'm going to write down the item. So I'm going to write down phone symbolizes, and I just phone, and then maybe a dash, and then communication with the outside world, okay, on that one. And then I'm going to go and I look for other items. Well, I want to, what ways people can communicate besides phone, you know, that communicates maybe electronic communication rather than a letter or something like that. So I thought of, well, what about like lines, like electrical lines? So I put down electrical lines, and I said forms of communication. I put that's what it symbolizes on those. And then I had the idea of the connections came to me. So, well, what about the connections? Maybe they're not actually able to get out of the box and communicate. Maybe those things are and the connections are short. So, well, I get connections. So I said connections symbolize not being able to connect with the way I want with people outside of my box on that. And so I write that down on here. And so I'm making a list of what things symbolize in this assignment. A lot of times in artwork, you see that artists put in lots of different sorts of symbols, and you're kind of, I wonder what that is. We may not have knowledge, and so we want to give our viewers a little bit of a help, a little bit of a hint of some of those things. So we're going to interpret those symbols for our viewers and have that with them on the have it with them as far as the viewing. So what I would like for you to do is on the first step of this assignment, I want you to do the assembly. I want you to find your stuff. And I want you to make the list of the things that you have collected and what they symbolize on that one. So your figure could symbolize me. That's a given. You can write that down, write it on your note paper. The box symbolizes isolation or being separated from everything in the outside world. You write that down on your piece of paper. And then assemble your items, write them down on the paper so you have your list of symbols and things that you want to include in your work of art. What I want you to do on the first part, if you could arrange these guys sitting out here on your table, photograph all the things that you can symbol that you're going to use in your artwork, and then also your list on that one. Photograph your list. If you want to photograph that so it's up close and personal, you can, but as long as I can see it on the table with the rest of your items, I'll count that as good. I'll count that as a successful part of it. So the first part is just getting your stuff together. Take your stuff, put it in the box, kind of like what I've done here. I have a box full of these goodies ready to put it together. And making your list and assembling your box stuff is step number one, and that is all I expect for the first part of the assignment. That's worth 10 points. The next part is actually putting it all together. And so then the next session you'll spend time assembling those items and putting them together, and then you'll photograph the end product, and then either I'm not sure which I want to do, whether I want you to have to type it in the comments section, your list, or whether I just want you to photograph your list so you can have that available so I can see it. So I want to see the finished artwork on part number 2, and I want to see the list on part number 2. I think that's enough to get you going on this. It should be kind of entertaining, a little bit of break from the how-tos that we've been doing with various things on found art and making some of the origami figures and doing some of the painting and all the other things that we're going to be doing. I'll probably give a little bit of some more information as this goes along. That's about it. Thanks. See ya.